Okay, now Rashbam. Rashbam, Rashi's grandson. Now, Rashbam ala Torah. So Rashbam ala Shas is nice. It's basically Rashi, right? It's Rashbam ala Shas. So there's places where Rashi didn't quite finish his commentary, and Rashbam steps in. No, it's not quite Rashi. He's a bit more. He says more than Rashi. He's already sliding towards the Tosafists, the Balaya Tosfos. In being a bit more involved and caring a bit more about contradictions, but he's still a lot in the style of Rashi, just trying to give you nice explanations, nice translations. But Rashbam and Torah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. In opposite to his grandfather, Rashbam is very, very adamant that you need the simple meaning of the text, and sometimes he'll go as far as give you things that go against the Talmudic interpretation. And I think even tefillin. So tefillin, the Talmudic interpretation is that it's these leather boxes, tefillin, and you wrap around the arm and blah, blah, blah. The simple meaning of the text is, you should have these concepts, because it's the V'hodet Tufas Bananecho, basically the concepts that you just learned of loving God and fearing God or whatever, should be inscribed on your heart. Meaning you remember them and you keep them there, and between your eyes, it means in your mind. Keep them on your mind. And Rashbam, if I'm not mistaken, Rashbam says this is the simple meaning of the Puzik, of the verse. So this is radical, right? He's saying even though in Jewish tradition these verses are used as the commandment to put on tefillin every day, these leather straps and boxes, the simple meaning of the text has nothing to do with that. The simple meaning is just you should remember these concepts. So that's quite radical. So he's quite radically common sense and pshat based. And I like him for that. I like him. I would read Rashbam any day over Rashi. But that doesn't mean he's going to rank higher than Rashi, because Rashi is still incredibly influential. I think he goes alongside Rashi in the A tier. Okay, next up we have the Rema, or the Rema. Commentary on the Bas Yosef. So he updates the Shulchan Aruch by Rabbi Yosef Karo. He updates the Shulchan Aruch with Ashkenazi customs. As a rabbi, he's more influential than his actual written contribution. So, his name lives on beyond his contribution. So his halachic contribution is significant. It's custom, the Ashkenazi custom that is used in Psak halachically. But as a rabbi, I feel like, his contribution isn't that numerous. Okay, he made some contributions to the Shulchan Aruch, but I think he lives on in memory more as an influential rabbi. And I don't know a lot about his life, but it looks like he was very influential. And he was also quite worldly. So he was a rabbi who read widely. He read secular knowledge. He wasn't opposed to that. Yeah, I don't know much about him. I'm going to put him. I think he belongs in B tier. A high B tier. Next up, who is this guy? This is the Tor. Rabbi Yaakov ben Usha, the son of this guy, the Rosh, we'll come to in a moment. This is the Tor. Baraturim, he wrote, he was the one who defined what the Shulchan Aruch looks like today. The Dalet Chelka Shulchan Aruch, which is Archaim, Ibn Wezech, Hashemish, Yerdaya. He was the one who defined that. He put it in these 4 categories. The Torah is quite an easy read. I find the Torah quite superior to the Shulchan Aruch. Actually, even though the Shulchan Aruch came to define halacha, and is seen as more authoritative, in terms of readability and in terms of explanation, the Torah, I find it superior. Because he gives you, it's not only just strict kind of practical things. This is what you should do and shouldn't do. He gives you the reasoning behind it. He engages with you. He tells you a story. I find that more readable, and I find that more informative. Still nowhere near like the Mishnah Torah by the Rambam, but still quite influential and quite readable. Where should we put him? Is it A tier or B tier? Bit difficult to say. It's either a high B tier or low A. Let's give him a low A. We're going to give him a low A. We're going to give him a low A tier. Okay. Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, Satmar Rebbe. Now, this is, again, personal for me. I grew up Satmar, and this was the guy who was like our God. Everything was about him. Everything we did, every question we had was about, how, Christians say, what would Jesus do? This is what would the Rebbe's Chern do? Rebbe's Chern is Satmar Rebbe, and he never died, in a sense. He even though he died in 1979, he is, and there were Satmar Rebbes after him. He is. There really aren't Satmar Rebbes after him. He is the Satmar Rebbe, and all his successors were just seen as those who carry out his legacy and those who interpret his works. But he is really the Satmar Rebbe, and it seems like, he's just always going to be the Satmar Rebbe, and he's such a larger-than-life figure, so charismatic, so powerful, that, unlike in other Hasidic dynasties where it moves on, Satmar never moved on from him. He never moved on. He is still the Satmar Rebbe, and everything is still about him. Everything is about him. Very, very zealous man, very extreme, very radical. Well, people know him for his anti-Zionism, but he was also extreme in many other ways, like his radical insularity and isolationism and anti-modernity and anti-enlightenment. A lot of pain in my life growing up is due to him, is his responsibility. A lot of the misery and the way I was brought up and the repression and closed off from the world and is on his shoulders. I can't like him. I can't have any positive feelings towards him, even though they say he was a nice man. Sometimes. I think he was sometimes a nice man. I think he was quite charitable and cared about other Jews and wanted to help other people, but he was also very vicious against his intellectual enemies, saying really nasty things about Zionists and about secular Jews and so on. And blaming Zionists in the Holocaust. And he was also responsible for quite a lot of deaths in the Holocaust because he discouraged his followers from making Aliyah and from leaving Eastern Europe. In terms of his scholarly contribution, I think it's overstated by his Hasidim. So he clearly had a lot of breadth in the Hungarian tradition. Hungarian scholarship is more about breadth and also pilpul, saying nice things, putting things together, a lot of drush. And he was very good at that. So in terms of the Hungarian tradition, he was quite good. But in terms of actual scholarship, I don't think he's that great. Wasn't a very original thinker. I don't think he was a great. Definitely not in the common sense, rational way, or in the kind of the brisker way, and the kind of way of just trying to understand what the texts say and trying to make sense of it. He wasn't. He was a bit all over the place. I would put him. Okay, this is again quite personal. I think objectively, in terms of his influence, he would be higher than a C, probably a B. But because I have strong feelings about him, I can't like him. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Okay, next up, who is this guy? This is the Rosh. I think this is the Rosh, the father of the Torah, who we had. Where did we have here? The Rosh is this great commentary a la Shas. Also a bridge between Talmud and Halacha. The Rosh is a commentary on the Talmud, but he's veering towards Halacha. And the Torah, his son is based a lot on that. He's quite a clear thinker. His commentary is quite commonsensical. He's not always accessible. It's quite difficult to read him, but he's a Rishon. The Rishonim often are quite difficult to read. I think, as far as the Rishonim go, he's relatively accessible, and he's relatively clear and commonsensical, and relatively influential. But I don't know. I think he's a B tier. Let's put him in B. Okay, I think we're going to have one final video, and then we'll leave it at that.